if I may, Eamon Smith, who some of you know, got some bad news about his mother late last night, and in hospital with her overnight. And we'll send out our prayers and good wishes to him and his mother for a recovery. So it's my very great pleasure to welcome you all this morning to the Coffee at 11 show with my very special guest and a lady I've known for some years now, Daphne Greene. Daphne, please say hi and close your mug. Cheers us with your mug.
Good morning, everybody, and Colm, thanks for having me. I hear you just mentioned there, Eamon. I'd like to pass on just my best wishes to Eamon and his mum as well. These are very difficult times for people, especially with elderly parents. So our thoughts are with them, and hopefully she'll make a speedy recovery. So thanks for having me this morning, Colm.
Pleasure. Thank you for those lovely words. Yeah, Eamon's a special guy and a special part of the Coffee at 11 show. So Daphne, let me just introduce you to our guests, some of whom will not know you, surprisingly. Let me introduce you in terms of some of the stuff that I picked up on you in our chats in recent days. So you are part of the Greene family dynasty, third generation Limerick merchant family. You're the middle child, which has all sorts of privileges apparently, of 7. And you're the general manager of the Greenhills Hotel, 4-star hotel, conference and leisure centre out on the northern entrance to Limerick City. Doing a great job there for over 50 years. You haven't been there for 50 years, only 25, only a quarter of a century. But that in itself is amazing given your youthful demeanour. I just think it's fantastic the work that you do, but on top of that, over and above your busy schedule, you find time to be president of Rotary, Limerick Shannon Rotary. And I know you worked with 3 organisations this year under your stewardship to raise funds for Limerick Suicide Watch, the Limerick branch of the Alzeihmer Society, and indeed the Children's Grief Centre. We spoke about that yesterday with Sister Helen, so congratulations on all that. Really looking forward to getting into the meat of all of that, Daphne, with you. Before we do, something that nobody knows about you, I'm going to perhaps put you on the spot here, but I think it's important. And this, by the way, isn't what you shared with me. You shared with me something, to be honest with you, was quite innocuous, but staying in Germany when you were 15, right? But the one I found out separately is the fact that you and Greenhills have been working with quietly in the background the Novus homeless organisation for the last number of years. So hats off to you. Bula bus.
Now, where do you get your sources, Colm?
Oh.
Yeah, look, I suppose we all remember the last recession. I mean, there's none of us that don't. I'm seeing Sean Lally on my screen here. Big wave there, Sean. How are you? Sean, no more than any of us would remember those years. They were tough years. We were very fortunate in our business with the local community backing and the community that have always supported us. And we sort of felt during that time that we needed to give something back. And, in fairness, it was the brainchild of my brother Hugh to get involved with Novus. So we have been feeding the homeless in conjunction with Novus and the great volunteers that they have every day of the week for the last 5 years. And it's something we really look forward to resuming when we're back up and running. I think we have to be very mindful of other people. We are fortunate. I know what's happening now is difficult for people, and it's kind of taken the wind out of a lot of our sails. But, the sun will shine again. And, I suppose we do need to be mindful of others and to give kind of thanks for what we have. So I think, look, this is something that we started with Novus, and it's something that we do, please God, when we get our doors open again, that we will continue to do with them. That's it.
Thank you, Daphne, and we wish you every success with that. I see Hugh has joined us in the cafe, so Hugh, you're very welcome. So yeah, I think a round of applause for that great work, even though it's perhaps put you on the spot. And Sean Lally, you're very welcome. Good to see you here. We'll be chatting to Sean next week. Looking forward to that. Before we get into the backstory, because I'm really interested in the backstory, I heard some more juicy stuff, by the way, that I'm going to land on you. No pressure, but I heard some more juicy stuff. But, touching on the Nova situation, touching on the Alzheimer's work that you do, the Limerick suicide work that you do, the Children's Grief Centre that you do, to bring some levity into this. Daphne and I did a tech check this morning, right? Two of us just in from being out in the rain, and the hairs were all over the place, right? And we were saying, will we wear it up or down, right? But then we quipped, listen, it's first world problems, first world problems. So let's.
Well, I haven't been to a hairdresser in months. I haven't got my colour done in months. So I think everybody's under no illusion that I'm not a natural blonde at this stage. But anyway, as I say, it's a first world problem. It's,
first
you know,
world.
it really is not a big issue. And you know what, maybe it's a good thing.
No, maybe it's a good thing. And by the way, I'm not a natural blonde either. Just all right, Daphne Greene, we're going to go to you. In your own words, please. I forgot to mention that you didn't go to Hotel and Catering College. That surprised the heck out of me. In fact, you did economics and something mad else in Trinity. So from those early years up to Trinity, will you please?
I suppose, yeah, I started my first 3 years in Lord Hill, followed all of my sisters into the Lord Hill C School at the time. I'm showing my age, mentioning the C School versus the A School, but anyway, I went to the C School. And then 1989 came along, and it was the very first year of transition. And we're all obviously really familiar with transition year now, but transition year at that time didn't exist. It was the very first year. So my parents, I suppose wisely, decided that we're not having this one hanging around for a year doing nothing. So we're going to make use of it. So I was actually sent off to Germany to live with a family. And how that came about was my sister was very friendly with a German girl. Anyway, long and short of that conversation, I was sent to Germany. Not one word of German did I have. And I ended up staying with the family where the mother hadn't one word of English. So obviously it was one of those things being dropped in at the deep end. So anyway, that was that year. And when I came back, Lord Hill at the time didn't do German. So I went to the Crescent Comprehensive and finished out and did my Leaving Cert in the Crescent in Dordogne, and then went on to study a degree in economics and politics in Trinity College, where I have to say I had the most fantastic 4 years. It's a life experience university. I mean, honest to God, if you ask me now, do I remember anything of what I studied? Not really. But I had a fantastic time. I met fantastic people. I had fantastic experiences. I was involved in loads of societies. I was PRO of, we called it the DUBE Society, it was Dublin University Business and Economics Society. I got to meet people like Fergal Quinn, Peter Sutherland, who I remember was the chairman of Goldman Sachs at the time, Gay Byrne. You know, I had just great time. I worked part-time in the catering department. And because I could do silver service, and Sean will know what I'm talking about here from my time working in the Greenhills for various summers, you know, I had the skill set at that stage that not a lot of people working part-time in Trinity Catering Department had. So I used to get to do all the really big events like Sir Patrick Mayhew coming for dinner, Mary Robinson. Like I would have served all those people. I had more money then than I do now, and I think back on it, to be quite honest with you, because it was a unionised catering setup. I think I was paid something like 14 or 15 pounds an hour in 1993, 4. Yeah, seriously, I used to, because we were female staff, we used to get taxis home, we were fed. I mean, I had no cost. So it was fun all around, really. So that was a fantastic experience in Trinity. I did a PRO for Lily Bordella's student night on a Monday night. So, you know, I mean, my whole setup was sorted, really. So, yeah, Trinity was fantastic. Could not recommend a university or college or whatever college or university that anyone goes to. I just think it's a hugely important experience. Travel and education can't beat either.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Do you understand why it surprised me when I learned that, you know, living where you live and being who you are, what the part of the family, that you didn't go to Shannon, right? So that just threw me. And I'd forgotten it was economics and politics. And when Daphne and I were doing a chat about before the show, she said, I did economics and politics and I put them into practice every day. And I get that, and Sean Lally gets that, and anybody in the service industry gets that. It's economics and politics every day. Happy days. The Lily Bordellos, I love that. Only in Ireland could Lily's Bordello be known as Bordellos, right? But
I know.
We can't even say it.
We can't even say it right. I know.
Valerie
Rowe was the manager there at the time, and she was great. Basically, I would get £50, which was a lot of money. And, you know, you could basically have what you wanted to drink, and that's what you'd sell and get as many students in there as you could on a Monday night. And that was the job spec, which was great.
I love it. I love it. We've a phrase that has come into the Coffee at 11 show unwittingly over the last number of weeks, but it's jammy, right? And it's where somebody lands on their feet all the time. So welcome to the Jammy Club, because you're one of those people. 14, 15 pounds an hour back in the day.
Absolutely.
Right? And then 50 quid and all you can drink for bringing a whole lot of students in on a Monday. Yeah, tough life, tough life.
Yeah, tough life.
Roll on to when life got serious.
Yeah, exactly.
Take us into your journey to the
Yeah.
Greenhills.
I suppose then, obviously, I suppose, the good times didn't stay forever. Obviously the reality of, you come back to Limerick, and my father wouldn't be long grounding you, I can tell you. There certainly wasn't 14 or 15 pounds an hour being paid in Limerick at the time. But no, they were great experiences, and look, they were experiences that you were able to take with you, onto the next stage. I would have spent a period of time down in Cork as well, in Kinsale, when we had the Blue Haven. So I spent about 2 years there, travelling between the Blue Haven and the Unicorn in Dordoyle, which I was running at the time. We had just done a huge, sort of literally knocked it and rebuilt it at that stage. So I was travelling between the two. That was great. Obviously, the experience in Kinsale, Cork people they're different to Limerick people. They're quite clannish, and that break-in was certainly something that, there was a lot to be learned from that. And then I came back, when I came back to Limerick, then I started back then, after that period, I started back in the Greenhills. I would work very close with my dad at that time, because he was still very much actively involved, and he was very much the boss. And in fairness to him, he's 87, but he still likes to give you his opinion, every day. And we're very fortunate to still have him. He's very still active, and even though this lockdown is not suiting him, he doesn't like to be told he can't go where he wants to go. So locking him down is a whole different understanding of lockdown. But anyway, went back to the hotel, and I suppose one of the big, I suppose, milestones that we wanted to reach was to get our 4-star. So that took obviously a serious amount of investment over time, because the building was old. It was built in 1969 on a greenfield site. It was added to, piecemeal over the years, as the money was there to do it. So I suppose you could say it was a labor of love since that time, really. We all 7 of us worked at various different times, summers, weekends, anytime there's anything on, you were drafted in, so we all grew up with it. So I suppose it's in our blood, if you like. And I enjoy it. I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, you have to like people, you have to like working with people, and you have to like meeting people. And that's our business is the people business,
Yeah, I come in that, if I may, having soldiered through that industry myself over the years. In fact, I was probably managing Beauties in Grafton Street around the time that you were wrecking the joint. And but I used to, when I joined Beauties all those years ago, I was full sure Beauties was all about coffee, right, and brown bread and bacon, egg and sausage. And I learned very quickly it's not. It's all people. It's just people, right? And so the hospitality industry, I think it's a great leveler. I think it's a great training ground. I think anybody who has an opportunity should go through it. And it's great that you've taken all those years and you've brought it to bear. By the way, I've seen your dad floating around in the restaurant there.
Oh yeah.
Not bothering him, like just happy days. He's out holding court in his own way, and you know what, he deserves it. He deserves to be fighting the lockdown. Happy days at 87. I hope I'm a rebel at 87. Yeah. Okay, so bring us to where the hotel was before lockdown.
Yeah, I suppose, look, I kind of, it seems like nearly a distant memory now, but, I remember the week before, I kind of think of Paddy's, and then I think of the week before Paddy's, and 2020 was looking healthy, good mixed business on the books, and we were moving along nicely. We had just reopened our new restaurant space in the hotel, and we had other further plans to start working on different sections, as we always are doing. And the Thursday and Friday before, obviously the mumblings of all of this had started. And in my own head, I suppose at the start didn't really think of it, as, it seemed so far away from us, when we heard it in January and February. And then it was just getting closer, and you were kind of thinking, God, that's never going to happen. No, that's never going to happen. And then when the kids were out of school and, it started to become a reality, within 2 days, the business just fell off a cliff. I can't actually describe it in any other way. Simple as, just fell, gone, all of a sudden. Obviously, the sort of, apart from the business end of it, then you had the whole situation of the health and safety side of it, people coming in and out of the building, a team of staff, 60 to 80 people coming in and out every day. It didn't take long to make the decision for what we had to do, put it that way. It was a very quick decision for a finish that we just had to close it down. It was a difficult decision, difficult day. probably, and especially for someone like my father, who in 52 years had never closed the door in the place in his life. So that was difficult. But, at the end of the day, the difference is that everybody was in the same boat. We were in this together. We were like a sort of a domino effect all around the city. Everybody saw it, no matter what business you were in, really. So really that's it. It was kind of panic stations, I suppose, for the first week or two, because it was the unknown. To close down a hotel like that, it's not a small thing either, because there's so many things you just think of, because we don't ever close our doors. The hotel is 24 hours a day. You don't ever actually close. So, all of a sudden you're thinking, well, what is the closing procedure? Because we don't have one, because we don't close, So there was lots of that type of stuff. So I'd say the first week or two was pretty kind of, we were all kind of going around maybe like headless chickens, probably wondering how we're going to do, what we're going to do, kind of maybe stressing, in hindsight when I look back, probably stressing about things that we had no control over, really, But I suppose when I look back now, there's different lessons to be learned from that,
Yeah, can I come in on this, Daphne? Hats off to you, and we feel for you, feel the pain. I can just imagine that within 2 days, the whole thing falling off a cliff, and watching it and not being able to do anything about it, and then having to, enact the unimaginable, which is shut the hotel down, right? And you say it's no easy feat. Hotels are open 24/7, 365. There's always somebody there.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did you have to consider the welfare of your staff, the well-being of your staff, and the fact that you were letting them off. There's all sorts of emotion around that. But you've also, it's the family jewel, if you like, or one of them. And so, I have to imagine it was very difficult for you. But I also want to concur that, when Leo closed the schools on the 12th of March, that put the day job, Carambola, out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost our business back in the day. We lost the Bewley's Cruises Cafe on Cruises Street there 15 years ago. And, but at the time, we were, if you like, the only ones in our boat, right? Mm. But there wasn't as much understanding out there. You've absolutely nailed it here. Everybody is in the same boat, not just Limerick, not just in Ireland, in the world. So there's a work level of comfort in that. And therefore, I believe we will all come through this. And so long as we stay alive and well, we'll reimagine and grow again. What do you think it's going to be like post-COVID for you?
Well, I suppose, look, it's very different to what happened, I think, during the recession. When things went kind of belly up in 2007 or 8, I think we were starting from a minus position. There was so much debt there. I don't think we have that now. I think, look, I think, people will take a bit of time to get things up and running, and things will start slowly. But I don't think we're starting on a negative. And that's, I think, the very big thing to remember, is that, we're kind of picking up where we left off in so many ways. Yes, I do think there will be some struggles. I do think it'll be a slower getting back to what we call the old normal, if there is such a thing as the old normal. But I do think it will come back. I am positive. I think humans and human beings, by their very nature, will always survive, or try to survive. That is the human spirit. What we can do is try and sort of say, okay, we're in this situation, the control is kind of out of our hands at the moment, but what we can do is we can sort of plan for reopening. And what we've looked at, we've said, okay, well, look, we can't control this, but what can we do to get things some way up and running? And obviously, a hotel is made up of several different departments, and obviously certain departments we can't open, certain departments we can't. So we're going to start, as of tomorrow actually, our dine at home menu. So this will be a facility whereby people can go online. We have a really nice menu. They can order for collection. We'll do lunch and dinner 4 days a week on a Sunday, with social distancing obviously very much part of our focus. We're going to open on a Sunday lunchtime, so to allow people to come in as a service to collect their Sunday dinner, their Sunday roast, collect it, in a healthy, safe environment, and leave. Unfortunately, they won't be able to sit. But look, what we're saying is we're going to try and get the hotel opened in a piecemeal, small, bit by bit, and that's the way I think the whole economy is going to go. If we can all get a little bit of something opened, it's a glimmer of hope. It's a start. It's, let's let's not just sit at home and do nothing. Let's try and do something proactive. So that's what we're doing. We're starting it tomorrow. So pass out the word, everybody. Let everybody know. Anybody who wants.
Well, I think
good food.
let's give you the cafe at 11 round of applause. Coffee at 11 show round of applause. That initiative. That's great. A couple of things, if I may, because I'm busy scribbling notes here. You mentioned, you touched on the recession and that people aren't, at the recession, when the recession hit, there was huge debt, and that made everybody's restart very difficult. And I accept the point that we haven't been in recession yet. However, I was talking to a guy earlier this morning, and he was talking about one company he works with, a client company of his, and he was saying that that client has worked out, if he's not back up and running by the 1st of July, by the 15th of July, because of the recession, his resources are meager enough, if that makes sense. So he didn't need this coming in the back of the recession. None of us did. Control the controllables, love that. Sarah Ward is in the cafe, and Sarah was my guest a couple of weeks ago, and that became her mantra, control the controllables. And I'm sure you're delighted, Sarah, that Daphne has embraced that. Happy to, congratulations. The dine at home menu, very wishes with that. But it also struck me, Daphne, that necessity is the mother of invention. And I'm going to put it to you, if I may. Several guests have come on the show over the last couple of weeks, and they've tried stuff because of COVID that they would never have risked trying before, right? It would have been out of its own. Why bother? What impact would it have? So you want to touch on that, the fact that you're trying stuff?
Yeah, I suppose, look, we're trying this because this is all we're allowed to try, if you like. We're working within the parameters of the current COVID rules, if you want to put it that way. I think, like I'm taking calls every day from different sections of business, and the ones I feel most sorry for really are weddings, to be honest. You've got bride and grooms there ringing every day, some of them getting married at the end of June, July, August, what's happening, what are we going to do? And you can hear the stress and it's really unfortunate for those people. And once again, I can't look into a crystal ball and give them that information to say, yes, do this or do that. All I can say is, like, wait till the 5th of May and let's revisit it then at that time and see what we can do, see what we can do at that point, because hopefully we might have enough information to be able to give you the information for you to make a decision. So, I mean, I suppose in the exact same way, we looked at it and we said, well, what can we do? And really the only thing we can do is get our kitchens open. We have really good food. We're well known for it. I said, okay, let's do what we're good at and give people good food.
Yeah, but it keeps you in connection with your
absolutely
marketplace.
And because we're very community based, Colm, obviously where we are, and for the length of time we're in business, and we put up a post a couple of weeks ago asking people, what would they like to see, or would they like to see this service, and the response was phenomenal. So people basically told us, yes, they want the service, and kind of what they want is that. So
that's another theme that has come on the Coffee at 11 show over the last number of weeks is, stop selling, start serving in this time. Be of service to your customers, to your community. Decision. Interestingly, you spoke about the time when, the 2 days that you just couldn't believe this was happening. Then you got to the point where, right, decision has to be made. Did you find, because I found this, that once the decision was made, it was somewhat easier?
Absolutely. The unknown and the not knowing, I think, is always the most difficult thing for anybody. Once we made the decision, we had a clear plan then. And the immediate plan was, make sure that our staff were looked after. And that was really important. Get the place secure, locked down. We had a plan, we had an action, and we knew the boxes that we had to tick. And that was great, because up to then, were we serving food? Were we not? How were we moving people out of different tables? I mean, it was a nightmare, really, to be honest. So...
And the reason, Daphne, that I was brought back to that decision, because I actually made that note earlier in our conversation, was when you mentioned the poor couples who are wondering about whether their wedding is on or not. And in any sort of way, they're probably hoping you'll take the decision for them and say, do you know what, push it out till next year or whatever, because at least everybody would know. And I'm not suggesting you do that, but interesting one, somebody needs to...
Yeah, and I agree. And you'll often know by talking to a couple, if you kind of spend enough time listening to them, you'll kind of know, you'll hear what they want. Some people will really try to say, oh, we really want to keep it this year if we can. And for those people, you're saying, look, wait till the 5th of May, because this could be fine, For people that are really unsure and they have a specific, if somebody now having a very big wedding, I would probably say to them, look, unless you're prepared to reduce the numbers that are attending this wedding, I would be holding off, because it's not going to be the wedding that you want. You know what you want. That's the wedding that you've saved up or you've dreamed of. So for the sake of a few months, wait, it's things will come right again and things will come good again.
I wasn't intending going here, but you've opened the door, right? Two things come to mind. One, if you don't mind me asking, it must be challenging from a social distancing perspective for your staff, given the type of work that you do.
Mm-hmm.
First, you might just touch on that briefly, if you wouldn't mind. Obviously, we know it's kosher, it's in place, but it has to be a challenge. But the second one, as you mentioned, the May.
Are you talking about are you talking about the takeaway service?
Yeah, you've got your kitchen to operate. You've got your kitchen to operate in a socially distanced way. Mm-hmm. And obviously the takeaway part is the easier part, I would have imagined.
Yes, I would agree. To be fair, all of the various government bodies and the IHF, of which we're a member, they've all been really good at setting out these guidelines to us. Actually, even only yesterday, we've drafted up, our first draft sheet, as sort of a one-page draft for staff that will be coming back to do the takeaway version, of various things that they have to do to make sure that they understand, if they're not feeling well, that they have to let them know, what constantly hand washing, if you're over around food, we would as well not insist, but I don't know if you can insist ever, but you can certainly make available, make sure that for a chef, for argument's sake, that if they're serving, they're having a face mask, when they're serving a food, that type of thing. But I mean, there has to be, and there is, in fairness, through the HSE guidelines to how we can do this. Obviously, opening on a bigger scale, well, that's going to be, I think, a more difficult scenario. We're fortunate, I would say, in the hotel with our new restaurant and bar space, is that we have huge space. So if we needed to do every second table, we're probably in a more fortunate situation than a place that doesn't have that space. But look, that's going to happen when and if we get opened.
Interesting one. I'm not in the restaurant business anymore, but I'm following the Restaurant Association of Ireland's chief executive and his tweets, and I'm just fascinated by what's going on there. But places beginning to open up on social distancing, and hats off to you. I was in the industry for years, so I know the challenges. Wish you every success, you and everybody involved in hospitality. We're going to go to Q&A from the floor in a second. I'm going to ask you for a tip before we do there, but you did touch on it, and I need to ask you. You mentioned when the 5th of May comes. Are you expecting Leo to wave a magic wand?
No, I don't. I think reading, and I'm only reading the news the same as everybody else, but I think, look, we're possibly looking at maybe a further 2 weeks, of further lockdown. But I think at that point he may ease restrictions, I think, for certain sections of the economy. He may even, where possible, sort of mid-May or maybe towards the end of May, look at social distancing in restaurants. I'm not sure about pubs. I don't think so anytime soon. But look, I think it's in all our interest to keep following the rules, do what we're told, because really, as soon as we can, we need to get this economy back up and running for all of our sakes, But obviously, health is the most important thing, and is the driving factor in any decisions that are going to be made.
100%, Daphne. I heard this. I'll just share this, and then I'm going to ask you for a tip. I heard this morning. I laughed. Right, a fella said to me that he heard somebody else say it, that the world, because I was saying to him, we'll never forget 2020. We'll be telling our grandchildren, you won't believe what happened. And he said that he heard a guy saying that it was like when Scar took over Pride Rock, right, in The Lion King, right? The world just went bananas, fell apart. So hopefully Scar knocked off his perch very soon. Right. Greene, it's been a pleasure having you on. Great fun, and thank you for being so open with us. That's the whole idea here, is to let real people in to tell the real story, so that other real people can get a modicum of comfort knowing I'm not the only one. Whatever I'm feeling, I'm not the only one. So thank you for that. One tip: you're going to get through COVID best by doing blah. What's blah for you? I
think, look, as I said earlier on, don't stress about what you can't control. I think that's hugely important. Try where possible to get a bit of structure I think, look, at the start of this, we all were probably, you know, not as kind of organised, or maybe it was a little bit of a holiday for the first week or two. But I think structure is important, having a structure for your day, having a little plan, you know, but not stressing about what you can't control. I think that's key, because I think that's kind of wasted energy. And I think we all need to keep our energy for when we're back up and running again. And, you know, that's going to be hopefully very soon. But I think reserve any stresses that are going to come for that time, as opposed to on stuff you can't control. That would be my tip to anyone, I think.
That's lovely. Thank you indeed, Daphne. Sarah did say control the controllables, and Liam Burke's on the call as well today. He's in the cafe today, and Liam said, don't waste a good pandemic. He said, do the garden and learn dancing and do Pilates and all the stuff. So Daphne Greene, it's been a real pleasure having you on. I'm not going to let you go away now, because we're going to go to Q&A from the floor.
No problem.
Let's just give you the Coffee at 11 show. Round of applause. Thank you for being so open and honest.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, my pleasure. So who's got the first question for Daphne? I hope it's a hard one. Who's got a real... I love it, Ian Hannon.
Thank you, Colm. Morning, Daphne. Great to meet you, virtually albeit. Hopefully you can...
Morning, Ian. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. So I'm just wondering, like, in terms of, you know, don't waste a good pandemic and all of that, opportunities come out of these times. Loved what you're saying in terms of the food delivery service and that type of thing. Just wondering, in terms of your business in your industry, the next 12 months, 24 months, what other opportunities do you think you can get out of what's happening at the moment? You know, there isn't going to be a magic wand. How quickly will we get back to whatever we used to call normal? And in your industry, do you think there's anything else you can do, not just to get back to normal? It'd be an awful shame if that's all we were hoping to do. Maybe it's an unfair question right now.
One of the things I did notice, you know, the last time that things went wrong in terms of the economy, one thing you did notice is that, you know, certainly within the hospitality industry, is that, you know, the bit of Kate Míle Fáilte came back, and the bit of what and who we are as Irish people, and what we do best, and that's being welcoming, you know, serving fantastic food, giving people that experience. I think, you know, it's no harm. It's brought us all maybe back to brass tacks a little bit, but I think appreciating the businesses that we have, appreciating the customers that we have, trying to maybe make that customer service a bit more authentic. And I do think that's something that we will all have to be working on, to give ourselves a bit of, you know, to kind of stand out from the crowd a little bit. We had probably got to the point, certainly I know in the bigger cities, of taking for granted the customer that walked in the door, and really not maybe looking after them always the way they should be looked after. And I think, I'm not saying we're perfect in the Greenhills, but I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think a bit of humility and a bit of, as I say, the old Kate Míle Fáilte, I think that will, and I think it should, and I think it's what makes Ireland different from any other country in the world. And I think we need to really hone in on that skill.
Yeah, remember our strengths and really capitalise on them and go to town on them, I think. So yeah, great answer. Yeah, thanks a million for that.
Yep, no problem.
Ian Hannon, thank you for that. And very great question, actually. That opened up a huge train of thought and conversation. So, and a really great response there, Daphne, because I do think you made a lot of sense there. You know, we sort of lost out on the Kate Míle Fáilte a bit over in the boom years in recent times. So I'm going to go to Princess Shelley, who's going to tell us what's been going on in the cafe while you and I were chatting. Princess Shelley, you're live.
Okay, everybody. Thank you, Daphne, for such a really insightful interview. I have my first comment came in this morning from Katrina, who said, my brother's father-in-law will be delighted to hear he loves Sunday carvery. So that's when you were discussing earlier on about the kitchen reopening and that food being available again. And then Hugh came in and said, Katrina, we really look forward to serving him once again. So, so yeah, that was nice, wasn't it? Then Katrina came in a little bit later and said, and my nephews, because they are always made to feel really special, family values. So that's something that is obviously appreciated as well. Donald popped in. He said, I've attended many conferences, seminars, etc. to do with Joyce. I have found some of these Zoom meetings excellent. Could our guest comment on whether some conferences would have people present in the hotel and others present via Zoom on a large screen after COVID? So I suppose what Donald's looking for there, Daphne, is any thoughts surrounding that you might have.
Yeah, I think how people are going to work, that's going to be a very interesting situation to watch evolve, I think. But you may have a scenario whereby you can only have meetings up to a certain amount of people. You may have companies that might decide, listen, we're going to have 2 or 3 facilitators or just giving a PowerPoint presenting, but everybody else is going to come in on Zoom. I can't look into a crystal ball, but I think we may see a certain amount of it. I would hate to see us go that way completely, because unfortunately I'm one of these people. I don't even like to shop online. I like to touch and feel things. I like to have conversations with people. I like to meet people. That's just who I am. This is lovely, and because we have to do it. But I'd rather be sitting around a table with all of you, having a cup of coffee and having the chats. You know what I mean? So that's the I prefer the human interaction, and sort of, so as a hotelier or as a person in the business, I'd hate to see it go that way. But obviously, we will have to adapt according to what the needs are of the customer and the client, and that's what we're going to have to do. But would it be a preference of mine? No, it wouldn't.
Having been somebody that's met you both in person, in the flesh, and now like this, you're coming across really well on video, but you do really well as well in the flesh. So I can see why. I could get a new career in RT if all this goes belly up then in the morning. Great. That's it. Ciara McCulloch, who was another really interesting guest yesterday, Ciara said, "Well done, Daphne, on being so adaptable and innovative. I can second that the Greenhills food is amazing. We had a mighty night there last year. Great food and wonderful service. Well done, and continued success going forward." So that's a very nice kind of testimonial coming in there, Daphne, isn't it? Yeah.
I actually met her. I met her at that function. I was trying to remember yesterday when I had met her, and I didn't realise until yesterday evening that it was actually at the Brides of Limerick Awards that I met her last November. So it took a minute, a few hours for me to try and backtrack where I had met her before. So that was lovely. Thank you.
Obviously had a very positive experience in the Greenhills. Lisa Carney has come in and she has said, "Great idea on the dine from home, thinking outside the box. Well done, Daphne and team." I did have a query in from somebody joining us today all the way down in Bantry, actually, Sandra Maybury from Fantastic Event. I will just unmute you there, Sandra.
Very good. Thank you, Shelley. Daphne, I saw your name yesterday on Facebook and I said, oh my God, blast from the past. I have to log on to this call. So just, I suppose, for everyone else, Daphne and I would have worked together what does feel like a million years ago. It's Choice of Chance. And I see Sean Lally is also here this morning. Hi, Sean. I've really enjoyed listening to you this morning, and it is great to reconnect again.
Absolutely,
I don't have
Sandra.
a question.
Sandra, you've got younger looking.
No, I think you got younger looking. It's do you know what I would like to say though? I suppose I myself were in in the hotel and the hospitality sector, and I would like to think that as hoteliers we're resilient, and that we will find a way out of this and come out stronger. But I do agree what you said about the Céad Míle Fáilte, and I think I notice it myself, not everywhere obviously, but when I've been travelling myself around Ireland, I think it has been lost in some places. So I'd love to, like, if anything comes out of that for the hotel industry, I'd love that to be the strongest thing going forward,
Thanks very much for that, Sandra. Thank you. And so delighted that
Great point, Sandra.
Yeah, really good. So delighted you saw the post today and you decided to join us in the cafe, and great to see that you see some familiar faces. It really is, it's lovely to see. Before we go back to Colm, is there anybody else in the cafe that I would like, if you'd like to raise your hand like this, we might be able to take one more question. Is there anybody else? Sean Lally, I believe. I will unmute you there, Sean, for a question. You're now live, Sean.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you, everyone. A very interesting conversation this morning, Daphne. A little bit different to our normal meetings. But
I know.
I'd like to pay you a huge compliment. I was almost 16 years in Limerick managing a number of different hotels. And there's a set pool of business that goes round between dinner dances, victory balls and conferences. And any time, in a lot of cases, that you would make a call to the organizer to see would it come to whichever hotel you were in at the time, Daphne was usually there before you. And I think that's a huge credit to you and your team and your family. And just one other point, I was delighted when I was at the Brides of Limerick Awards there when was it, last October, November in the Greenhills, to see your dad getting a lifetime award, I think was a huge credit to the work that he's done in tourism in Limerick over the years. So well done.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, Sean, and thanks for that feedback. That's lovely. I'm going to go now to Sarah Ward, who also had a question.
Hi Daphne, how are you?
How are you, Sarah?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Yeah, I just want to touch on a couple of things there. The humanity side of it, definitely. I worked in the hotel industry back in the day, and it was definitely more. People had time for you. You know, you had to have time. You were told you weren't allowed work here unless you were friendly, and you made everyone feel welcome. But as years gone by, I've noticed the same hotel, I won't mention it now, but the same hotel lost its humanity. It became impersonal. And basically when COVID hit then, the same hotel would contact people and say, oh, you know, why aren't you rebooking and stuff? And you go back and you kind of say, you know, well, it had got so expensive, or it wasn't making you feel as welcome as you used to be, and you could be there for years. Like my parents would have gone to this hotel for like since their wedding, 60 years, 70 years ago, like. So basically the personal touch was leaving because the new generation was coming in, and they weren't kind of putting in the same effort. But I think COVID, I've noticed, has brought that back in, because they're ringing people and saying, well, how can we help you? What can we do to help you? And that's good. That's one issue. The other thing was, we were just talking, my husband and I were talking the other day about how things are going to be now with COVID afterwards, and how are things going to be regarding cost? Are things going to go very expensive because you can't fit as many people into say a pub? We were talking about a pub. You can't fit as many people into a pub as you could. So will the costs go up because you won't be making the same revenue and stuff?
God, I wish I could answer it. Anyway,
yeah.
Well, look, sorry, I know what you're saying, and I know the question, and I'm actually referring back to Michael O'Leary, you know, being asked this about the social distancing on planes last week, and he more or less said if they're told to take out the middle seat, it doesn't make any sense for them to fly anymore under the current sort of scenario. So, you know, every business, no matter what it is, it has to make economic and viable sense. If it doesn't, well, then it's just not a runner, where, you know, nobody can stay in business not making money, and nobody can stay in business certainly losing money. How that's going to work, I don't know. I met a publican the other day, I won't say, on one of my many walks, and he more or less said to me, to be quite honest with you, if the social distancing thing, it stays in place, that he won't be opening until it's lifted, because it just wouldn't make sense for him he'd be opening at a loss. His running costs would not make sense. So, I mean, we can't all of a sudden open tomorrow morning and the pint of Guinness is a tenner, you know what I mean? That's not feasible either. So you're going to see possibly a lot of places not reopening as long as this is in situ. And you maybe will see a lot of places possibly not opening again.
You know, you have to make money and you have to pay the bills.
Thanks for another great question, Sarah. You've always got a great question and a great narrative to offer into the cafe. Something that I see people nodding at, and you're maybe tapping into things that people have thought about over the last few weeks about going forward and that. Just before I hand back to Colm, I'm welcoming Fiona Doyle into the room. She said she's sorry, she's a little bit late. She's just finished the Zoom maths class. So thank you for joining us, Fiona. And Sandra said, thanks, Colm and Shelley. I really enjoyed the format of Coffee at 11, and it was so great to reconnect with Daphne and Sean. Wishing you all continued success. So everybody's really appreciating the platform, and we're really enjoying delivering it to you. So I'm now going to hand Daphne's back to the capable hands of Colm O'Brien. Back to you, Colm.
Thank you, Princess Shelley. Pleasure. Pleasure. Yeah, well done, Princess Shelley. Thank you for that segment, the Princess Shelley segment, the Coffee at 11 show. Tell you what I'm loving about this, right? I'm really loving this. This is COVID born, right? And loving the fact that we create this little cafe environment, and then, you know, myself and Daphne have the chats, right? And they're all earwigging and listening and scribbling notes. And then Princess Shelley steps in, I step out, and there's this other chat happens, and we're all listening. I think it's just wonderful. I'm loving it. I'd like to thank Sandra for coming in particular. That was really interesting. Sean Lally, however, right, did you hear the two women saying, you're looking great, you're looking great, you're looking great after all these years, right? They didn't mention you or me, my friend. We've been in the same industry for years. I think it's harder on men. I think that's the issue. It's harder on men. Right. Daphne Greene, it's just been an absolute joy having you in the Coffee at 11 cafe this morning. So I want to thank you for that, for coming in, for being so open and honest, and for, you know, going with the flow. Economics and politics brought to bear, right? Going with the flow, and because we don't have any answers. The next normal, somebody said it's not the new normal, it's the next normal. Whatever the next normal will be, we wish you every success, you and your family, and all of the people that work with you in the Greenhills. So, round of applause.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody for taking an hour of your morning to join. I was on yesterday's chat with Ciara. Fantastic. Colm and the team there, well done, because you know what, it's great to keep that connection. You're doing a super job, Colm. You know, I think RT could, if they got in quick, could get you at a fair contract. But anyway, look, thanks to everybody for joining in. I appreciate the support, and you know, as I said, you know, this is going to end, and the sun is most definitely shine again. So thank you.
A pleasure, Daphne. Now, before we let you all go, since Sean is on here, great to have you on, Sean. Thank you for that. Sean is going to come in this day next week, so I would ask that you would all honour Sean and come back in this day next week, and let's have the chat and see what life is like for Sean Lally. Same industry. Love, by the way, the fact that there's co-opetition here and not competition. I love that. It just
Sean and I competed constantly, so we're well used to it. Is that right, Sean?
but with the height of respect for each other.
Absolutely.
Right? You knew where you played in the game, and happy days. Great. Okay, before I do let you go, I also see Brendan Ring is in the cafe, and Brendan, you're very welcome. Brendan Ring, folks, is my guest on the Coffee at 11 show tomorrow. If you've got time tomorrow, if you'd like to gift Brendan an hour of your time, we'd be delighted to see you. Brendan is the managing director of Cube Print. Many of you Limerick-based would know Cube Print very well. He is also himself, with his wife Terry, are co-founders of Cleanest Foundation. And Cleanest Foundation was set up to help families where a child is suffering from an illness, a life-limiting illness. And they set up Cleanest Foundation because regrettably they lost their daughter Cleena some years back. Don't know how I would have coped with that. We now know how Terry and Brendan coped with it. They decided to do something positive with it. So looking forward to that chat tomorrow on the Coffee at 11 show. Once again, Daphne Greene, thank you very much indeed. Thank you to my team, Princess Shelley and Katrina O'Brien. We wish Eamon every best wish. And Daphne Greene, namaste.
Thank you. Slán.